Hello, everyone. We are live once more. This session is being streamed to LinkedIn, to YouTube, and it will become available as a podcast. The title of today's session is Fast Forward to the Next Normal, and why digital transformation is accelerating and what that means for business. And to discuss this, I'm joined today by Diana Fernandez, who is the Senior Director of Business Development for Cloud Systems at Oracle. Hi.
Hello, Bernard. How are you?
Very good. And what we'll discuss today is the acceleration of digital transformation and what that means for the enterprise and how they can get ready for it. So we will explore key business challenges, and cover topics such as data security, edge computing, and cloud deployment. It's so wonderful to have you with me today, Diana. First of all, how are you? I believe you're joining us from Barcelona today. How has this year been for you? How has the pandemic changed your life?
Well, happy to be here, first of all. Very, very glad. Well, I guess the last months have been as hard as for everybody else, right? I think we never lived through a period like that. So it's been a very eye-opening for many of us. I think we should be very glad to see the kindness of the people, the reaction of the planet to our abuse, right? How the companies were caring about their employees and their customers. So there is a significant amount of interesting insights that we have learned through the months. Myself, well, from a personal perspective, like everybody else, locked at home, and I'm trying to be healthy and avoiding, these connections and these relations with family and friends, which has been hard. Professionally speaking, I have to say that I think I must admit that I've been pretty fortunate. Oracle is very mature when it comes to technology. And that has made our lives much easier, right? I was a Zoom user way before COVID arrived. So instead of having a couple of Zoom calls a day, now I'm having too many calls of Zoom a day, right? But the capacity of adaptation hasn't been that hard, Obviously, we miss the interaction with the customers, the interaction with our colleagues, but if anything, I'm a very optimistic person. So if anything, I think we have discovered a more personal part of our colleagues and customers, right? Right now, you are just walking into my home. So, so we have been able to kind of break or lower a little bit those walls, right? And know the people more, who they are and how they live.
And I think this is hopefully a good thing that will remain with us afterwards. I always felt that sometimes in the past, people had almost two different personas, one at work and one at home. And for me, this is all now becoming a bit more real.
Absolutely true.
You're the Senior Director of Business Development for Oracle. So what does that mean? Maybe you can give me a little background of yourself and what you do for Oracle.
Well, you probably heard already this Spanish accent. So I gave away the part that I was born and raised in Barcelona in Spain. I started my career very early with Oracle, first in Oracle Spain, and Oracle has given me this open door to have an international background, right? Mm-hmm. So I've been working for Oracle Ireland in Oracle Digital. I moved to North America, to the headquarters in San Francisco, and then in Boston. Then I moved back to a European role, and then Europe, Middle East, and Africa, working from Belgium and now Germany, right? Right now, I'm leading business development and strategy in EMEA for the infrastructure that is the closest related to data. So we have Exadata as the key and most efficient platform for any data management. So I'm leading business development and strategy for the Exadata technologies, whether it's in the cloud, in the on-premise model, or in the ad customer model. We will talk about that. And as well as the rest of the infrastructure that our customers have in their data centers. Okay, so that's very important because we need to be able to transform those data centers, and that's what I do.
Very good. Born and raised in Barcelona. That's great. It's a beautiful city. Probably one of my favorite cities in Europe.
It is one of my favorite cities in Europe too.
Yeah. So Are you able to share anything else with us that people might not find on your LinkedIn profile about Diana?
Well, I guess you can read between the lines, right? I've been passionate around experiencing new countries and new cultures and crossing the borders, right? That's why as well I move significantly around, living in 2 different countries and continents and 5 different countries. That gives away a little bit the huge learning that I continuously find on this interaction internationally. I think it opens your mind, it opens your boundaries, it opens your, it breaks your preconceptions. So I think that's extremely important. People always ask me, what is going to be my next move? Because there is always that feeling of when you're going to pack again. And the reality is that I don't know. So before anybody asks, I don't know when it's going to be my next move. But what I can say is a consistent answer I give is that I hope if I live long enough and if I'm healthy enough, my last move will actually, I would love to be to the space. So this is my pretty weird thing. I'm hoping to retire in the moon. It sounds to me a fantastic plan. I don't know what people will think about that. Hopefully you don't consider me as a woman. But I think technology can help us, and part of what we're going to be discussing today, right? The acceleration of technology can help us to accomplish my personal dream, which is moving to the moon.
Very good. Moving to the moon. It's very, very out there. It's very cool.
Ambitious dream, right? But if you don't think big, you don't get it.
Exactly. I'm just, before we go into the content properly, I just want I'm having a little look through the stream and see who has joined. Let me just say hello to a few people. Thank you so much for telling us where you're from, and again, these sessions are always for everyone listening. So if you have any questions, any comments, let us know what you think. That is really important to us. So let me just say hello to a few people. Nancy is saying hello from Florida in the USA. We've got Yi saying hello from South Korea. We've got Chachai from Thailand. We have Ika from Indonesia. Angelica from Chile. It's lovely to see. There's Ramon from Paris and in France. We've got Jade from Japan, Dana from Romania, Ofunki from Lagos in Nigeria. Really good to see you. I'm sitting on a board with her. So it's lovely to have people represented from all over the world. Jaideep from India. So and Pamela from Scotland. Wonderful. Let me just see if we got any from Spain, if I missed them. I'm sure we have. Usually we have people from all over Europe and all across the world. So it's lovely to see that. So today we're talking about fast forward, and fast forward refers to this notion that digital transformation is accelerating at the moment. Why do you see that happening?
Well, I think we've seen innovation happening and accelerating in the last years, right? Especially in the last years. When I discuss this with customers, I always articulated that there are 3 main factors that is helping to that acceleration of innovation. The first one is that we are probably the most educated population that ever lived in this planet. We never had the amount of data being generated as it is today.
Yeah.
And the ability to communicate between each other and share learnings have never been better, right? When you combine those 3 factors, our education, our data, the amount of data, and the capability to exchange ideas is when the greatest innovation comes into play, right? Now, to be able to adapt that innovation into our lives, there is one component that is, do we have the technology available for us, which I think this is part of this combination of the 3 factors. But there is another aspect, which is the willingness to move forward, right? And here is where we need to identify, is this innovation valuable for me? How difficult is it going to be to transform and to adjust? What are my ethical boundaries, right? Because we are continuously pushing on where we stand and where we want to be or we should be, right?
Mm.
During the last years, I think that the speed has increased because enterprises are starting to realize the potential of technology, and they're realizing that those big dreams can become reality sooner. But then when we see a very such a big thing or such a drastic change coming from events like COVID, suddenly technology is not a very recommended option. It's in many cases the only option. And here is where we have seen a change of pattern from our customers, where the acceleration that we already had has sped up to the maximum, right? Hence this fast forward feeling of we were fast, now we need to be faster. You just need to get it done.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I'm seeing, that lots of the technology trends that were on my horizon that I talked to companies about suddenly have been fast-tracked because there was a real urgency to do something. And we've had the technology for a long time, so I think this urgency has now really accelerated it. We had the technology, we had the data, it just the willingness to change suddenly was there, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the good part of the story, that the technology is there for us to take, right? Because if we will still need to get to the point, things will have been completely different, right? I that's why I was pointing out, I think it's this self barrier that sometimes we put in terms of, our own preconceptions of, is this good enough for me, or how difficult it's going to be, or am I sharing too much, or whatever is the question that we make to ourselves. Now it was an option, right?
Absolutely. So what does this now mean for enterprises, this new next normal fast forwarding to it? I guess some businesses have been more ready than others.
Yeah.
What do you see? What does this mean for companies?
I mentioned earlier that as an employee, my adaptation to this new normal has been much easier, I think, because of the maturity of Oracle when it comes to technology, right? And I guess many of us can have had endless discussions with friends and colleagues and families, and we have seen how different companies were actually different level of maturities. For me, the change was not that drastic. For many of my colleagues, well, the first time they had to kind of get 20 people in a meeting, in a remote meeting, was a bit of a problem, right? So the maturity of technology is really one of the aspects that has opened the eyes of many IT leaders to understand that, the digitalization of the processes of the data that we've been talking about forever, right? The remote interaction, the elasticity of the resources, the access to technology and to innovation, all these aspects that we've been talking extensively in the last years, these had to be in place. One of our most popular cases has been actually Zoom, and the real case of Zoom is just kind of the possibility that Zoom had by migrating to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure to accommodate an huge increase of users in a really smooth, really fast, and cost-effective way. The same way as nobody will expect something like this tsunami coming, they will be able to adjust depending on demand in a cost-efficient, fast, and a smooth way, right? Not impacting the overall business. So this is what we are seeing in the enterprises. The speed of adaptation is not so much the vision that the customers had, because they were in the right path, is how fast can we get there, because we know that this speed is going to increase, right? And that's what we need to be ready for.
Very good. Just having a little quick look through the stream. We've got Maurizio from Colombia. Really good to see you. We've got Mariana from Bulgaria. Hasnain from Pakistan. We've got Vincent from Nashville in Tennessee. And we have Carl from Dubai. Again, lovely to see all of you here, and thank you so much for joining. So, Diana, when you talk to customers, which is, I guess, part of one of the most important parts of your job, what challenges are they talking about? What are you hearing from them? What do they want you to address and solve in this new next normal that we are now entering?
I think one of the main things that, at least as a pre-statement or prerequisite, that we should accept is that if many things around us have changed, we cannot expect to keep doing things in the same way, right? We need to, hopefully we agree that we are not going back to our old normal. I'm not saying with that suddenly the future is going to be completely different. I hope to still go back to a moment where we will be able to hug our loved ones and to have a glass of wine in a bar with population around us, right? But the reality is that we need to take this moment as an opportunity to make the substantial changes that to create that better future, right? We need to be maybe more critical with our old ways and identify how to actually not recreate the past, but definitely improve that past, right? Customers have always been, in the last years, very much worried and in top priority. The biggest challenges were, how do we understand better our customers? How do we understand better the market and anticipate the needs and anticipate, the customer experience to improve that customer experience, gain competitive advantage, optimize and minimize our costs. That I don't think is going to change that much, the reality. But on the other hand, we are going to have to act much faster, right? There are some other aspects that are becoming as well, I think, more recurring in the discussions related to the identity of the companies, how we are interacting with customers and actually employees. Where do we bring that innovation in that interaction? I think that's recurrently coming up into a higher priority, as well as topics that are impacting climate change and our contribution to society, because we are looking into an improved society that should take into account all these other aspects, right? So therefore, when we think about those challenges, at the end of the day, if we translate those challenges into the technology area, how technology can help to address all that, we are going to be talking about data and the volumes of data. How do we manage those volumes of data to get that insight in a fast manner, right? We're going to be talking about security, because we're putting our heart into that data, right? So how are we going to protect our own identities and the data and the value? How do we're going to become this flexible and scalable and elastic technology platform to be able to accommodate the needs whenever they come up, sometimes in a very surprising manner, combining with the innovation that is coming very quickly, things like edge computing, etc. Right? I see it as an ingredients of a recipe. It's ironic that I see it like that, because I must confess that I'm not a good cook. The people that knows me know that I'm not really good in the kitchen. But I see those aspects, data security, elasticity in the cloud, and edge computing, as those ingredients that need to mix, need to blend, right? You cannot treat each one of those as a standalone pillar. We need to be able to kind of blend them. This is not oil and water. The way we manage data is going to be impacting on the way we secure that data. Okay, and that's, I think, one of the important aspects of the Oracle vision. The regions of our portfolio allow us to blend those ingredients in an integrated manner.
Excellent. So maybe we can spend a bit of time looking at each of those areas: data, security, cloud deployment, in a bit more detail. Just before we do this, just want to pull in this one comment. We have someone from Spain. Hi from Malaga, Spain. Go, Diana.
Very good. Feeling the love. Feeling the love.
Absolutely. More than ever. So when it comes to data, we now have more data than ever before. Companies are struggling with storing this data in the right way. They're struggling to find the right data, use it appropriately. So when it comes to data, what do you see as the key challenges for customers, and how can they be addressed?
The volume of data has been increasing. This is nothing new, right? I mean, we've been talking for several years already. There were predictions back in, I think it was 17, 18, predictions around the 1.5 quintillion bytes of data each day being produced by internet users, right? Those numbers were out there. The latest information I got actually from IDC is that the amount of data created in 2023 is expected to reach the 100 zettabytes. That's 1 trillion gigabytes, okay? Now, because the increased volume of data is with us for a while already, the management of that data is not the biggest challenge for me. The biggest challenge for me is how do we actually understand that data, pick up the information that is relevant and remove the noise. Absolutely. And do all that in a timely manner, because by predicting customer behaviors, anticipating customer needs, they need to map with a specific timing. It's fantastic that I don't know, a retail provider is showing me clothes that maybe I will enjoy very much, but if they do it in the wrong time, it's not worth, right? So I think being able to find what data is giving us the insight that we need at a timely manner, that combination of factors is what we need to step up with. Yeah. And to be able to address that, there are, from a technology perspective, we need to look at two main concepts, right? One is, right now our IT infrastructure is extremely complex. I think the evolution of, the data centers have again complicated a lot the IT infrastructure, and that infrastructure is actually supporting that data, right? The second aspect is the fragmentation of the data. We've got different types of data. We've got new innovations, new workloads. So combining, how do we have, a very complex IT infrastructure combined with a lot of different type of data? How do we actually are able to manage that? Our recommendation is to come back to very simplistic approach to a certain extent. Make sure that we're standardizing and we are consolidating in specific infrastructures that are optimized, and transform the way you manage data with the converged database approach, which is bringing all this fragmented data being managed by one single type of database, right? And with that, we're able to tackle not only the simplification, and as well, going back to the recipe analogy, by simplifying that, we will be able to protect, to perform better, and to create that elasticity that we bring. We've seen, we will talk about that topic actually on the 9th of September. There is a forum, a system forum that we are organizing to go into the infrastructure, and with the theme of the fast forward of the acceleration, right? And there is a full track that will talk about that. How do we actually simplify our IT infrastructure, leveraging the converged database technology?
Very good. Sorry, we will put the link into the I will put the link into the chat afterwards. Is the Systems Advantage Forum, which will take place on the 9th of September in EMEA, and the agenda looks absolutely amazing.
It's very much in line to what we will be talking today, right? Yeah. I think going deep into all these aspects to articulate a little bit more how this vision actually translates into the technology that again is available for our customers to take. It's very important to see, right? And the good thing as well is that we have many customers that have been adopting this technology already. I've been talking earlier on about Exadata as the technology, the platform, the infrastructure that is actually the best to run Oracle databases. And Exadata is a technology that is in the market for the last 10 years. We got thousands of customers, and we have obviously our alternatives, Exadatas in cloud models, right? Customers that like NHS, the National Health Service in the UK, they use Exadata at customer actually to understand better and to identify fraud around prescriptions. And to understand the patterns on how to improve the treatment of the UK patients, right? So if we're able to understand what medication is actually being more effective, or reducing the time of sickness, or preventing other diseases, that's obviously good for the UK citizens, as well as for the organization that was able to identify savings that could be reinvested in some other areas, right?
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite case studies of data. And I interviewed Nina Monkton, who was the chief data officer for that part of the NHS. So this is actually available on my YouTube channel if anyone wants to dive a bit deeper into that story, which is a great story to share.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite ones because I think it's where we connect as well with the doing good for the human beings, right? If we're able to have healthier British people, we will be all as well happier, right? And maybe you even kind of able to identify new patterns to implement. But then we see, implementation of this type of technology in all other industries. We see extreme big success in all the banking and financial services. We have, for instance, the example of Credit Agricole. Their investing banking arm is using as well Exadata Customer to improve, to start to consolidate, which is part of this simplification of the IT infrastructure. But on top of that, improve financial reportings, provide the scalability at the times that they are requiring this increase of resources, right? It's all about becoming more optimal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. And interesting question. Hasnain is asking, how do we convert all of this raw data into information and knowledge? Have you got any examples of companies doing this really well, turning this into valuable insights and knowledge?
Yeah, this is one of the aspects where understanding, being able to understand the different typology of data, but still manage it as a whole block, right? We are actually at Oracle becoming very successful on everything that is related to autonomous databases, related to machine learning and artificial intelligence, right? Until recently, most of our customers and most of the enterprise in the market are using the data and doing their own analysis. So we are limited to our own intelligence, you could say, right? And our own speed. What is happening is that in the moment we start introducing concepts like machine learning, artificial intelligence, the machines are doing that job for us in a much more efficient way. We are able to identify specific patterns and specific behaviors of individuals providing data. We can use this for HR when we are talking about recruitment. We can do this with customer experience when we are identifying patterns of customers that are showing a higher level of happiness or disappointed to address into our processes, right? So when we introduce autonomous database, that is something that is kind of becoming the general use on the cloud as well at customer. We are introducing a smarter and more efficient, more secure, more automated way to remove the effort to a certain extent on the managing of the data and allow us to put the effort on getting the insights of the data. Okay.
Very good. And even part of the insight generation can now be automated, I guess, where you start pushing insights to business users, saying it looks like those customers are churning more than others. It looks like those customers are more profitable than others. Have a look at this. So this is what I'm quite excited about. And I guess talking about autonomous also enables, I guess, security. This is the other thing that you mentioned. Do you want to talk about some of the security challenges and how technology can help us protect our data?
Yeah, actually, security has been a constant threat. Okay, I don't think we can ignore that. But there are different types of danger. Okay, there are some that are more accidental, more human-related, system failures, natural disasters. Those ones right now we have technology, and autonomous is a fantastic example for that, where we can minimize the human error, the systems failures by the technology removing that risk. Okay, autonomous is able to identify when a user is doing something that shouldn't be doing, or is questioning why you're doing that if you never did it before, or if it's gonna make some additional failure in the future, is preventing from that. So technology itself, the latest innovations we had, especially around databases, is actually allowing us that. On the other hand, the vast majority of the threats when we talk about security are related to malicious actions, right? And here is where things are becoming more sophisticated, and it's extremely important. This is what I always say to our customers, to have a very clear cybersecurity IT infrastructure, okay, ready IT infrastructure. When we talk about cybersecurity, there are three categories that everybody needs to understand. The one is what is called the distributed denial of service. That's when basically there's an overload on the systems and they collapse, they collapse environment. The second one is the ransomware. This is the kidnapping of the environments, right? We hear sometimes that, X entity or enterprise has been kidnapped. The systems have been kidnapped or the data has been kidnapped. And the third one is the massive data breaches. This is when they steal the data, right? So all this, if you Google any day, you Google for that, you see numerous cases coming up in the news in a recurring way. That's why it's becoming more and more relevant for our customers to have this cybersecurity ready IT infrastructure. The approach that Oracle is having is very straightforward, and I think at least I find it very simple in concepts to explain. We need to simplify the surface area, which is very much aligned, if you think about that, about the IT simplification and consolidation I was talking about. The less windows and doors that our fortress have, the easier it is to protect it, right? There is an aspect around encryption everywhere, universally. There is no reason today not to encrypt data. Okay, it's interesting because many times we talk to customers, and still when we manage in our cloud, data is encrypted by default, right? And sometimes they struggle when they have to kind of create their hybrid models, etc. There is no reason why in the data center of our customers, data is not encrypted. It shouldn't be a compromise, because we do have the infrastructure today to maintain that encryption without impacting the performance of production environments, impacting the customer experience, the user experience, right? So when you have these three concepts aligned in your security strategy, that helps tremendously to protect the data. Now, what is happening is that, well, that will help us to handle, it will help us to neutralize, to recover from the attacks, right? We need to find a balance as well on the access and the security of the individuals, right? We need to provide the access that the users should have. But at the end of the day, we still need to be prepared to the worst case scenario, which is, there is always a maybe minimal, but it's still a risk to have this type of attack. And here is where the need of recovery of the data is something that we cannot avoid. We need to have an infrastructure that is actually able to recover the data. Doesn't matter what has been the threat from a cybersecurity. And here is where we introduce actually the recovery appliance, which allow us to do this recovery of data in an automatic way, in a consistent way with all the databases from Oracle, to avoid these type of challenges. A customer that actually I always recall as one of my favorite ones, actually, I don't know if it's because it's German or because it's one of the closest ones that I've been working with, but it's Dialog Semiconductors in Germany. They actually implemented a part of Exadata technology, recovery appliance, and they were able to improve their backups and lower their RTOs and their RPOs drastically because of this piece of technology.
That's great. Earlier, when we talked about some of the business challenges, you mentioned elasticity and cloud adoption. What challenges do you see around adopting cloud technology, and what do you see customers doing and struggling with at the moment?
I think cloud is something that hopefully everybody understands the value and understands the benefits that they are going to bring to the effectiveness of our businesses, right? But the reality is that because to a certain extent was a little bit of the unknown territory, it created a little bit of it raised the walls of many individuals, right? Especially the IT leaders. That's why when we're talking in the beginning about, well, it's great to have the technology, but if we don't have this belief, the adoption is not going to happen, right? I think that the cloud providers have been doing a huge amount of effort in the last years and months to make sure that we are meeting the expectations of our customers. Okay, because transition to cloud, we need to guarantee that the cloud is offering the needs and covering the needs of the customers. Now, one of the biggest challenges that our customers are having is that we don't start from scratch, right? I mean, it's great for the community of the startups or the born in the cloud companies, but the vast majority of the enterprises that we deal with, they come from maybe we call it now older ways or traditional ways, but this is still, the traditional data center that we all understand, whether it's more simplified, more consolidated. At the end of the day, it's a traditional way. Lifting and shifting, moving, expanding into the cloud and adopting the benefits of that cloud is one of the biggest challenges of our customers. Okay. This path, we call it the journey to cloud, right? And here is where when we look at how actually make our customers to able to implement what we are actually pitching, we realize that facilitating that transition was a must. And I think one of the uniqueness and strongest differentiators from Oracle is the fact that when we were talking about the Exadatas on-premise, that our customers for the last 10, 11 years have been implemented in the data center, but that Exadata is now possible to be implemented in the Oracle Cloud or to be implemented in the model that is called the at customer, which is the cloud offering of Exadata brought at the customer data center, especially for data sovereignty issues or latencies or security challenges, right? Being able to have the same technology, whether it's in the cloud or whether it's in your data center, allows the customer to make their choice. Going back to the topic as well about maturity, we understand that every customer is at a different level in that journey. Some customers are really going, with a very clear vision of moving their whole infrastructure of the data center to the cloud. Many customers have like a 2-year, 3-year plan. Some other customers are still in a kind of an earlier stage, right? Being able to accommodate that path with the choice of the customer and not the choice of the provider, the technology provider, is the radical change. Being able to decide, I'm working with a specific set of data. I was doing on the on-premise, what it will take to take it to the cloud. Since it's the same platform, the same infrastructure, to move that environment to the cloud is way easier. The ingredients will blend better, right? And in that whole view, I think it was as well important, and that was related to the latest announcements that Oracle did, to understand as well the reality from a customer perspective. Until recently, many of the cloud providers were actually not really talking to each other, right? And we see each other as real competitors. I think the partnership between Oracle and Microsoft or even VMware is really helping to understand that from a customer perspective, if we really want our customers to succeed in that journey and that transformation, we needed to acknowledge that there were workloads that made complete sense to maintain at Oracle infrastructure. And there were some workloads where the customer was limited to stay within the Microsoft world, right? Be able to connect those two worlds and still allow this transition to the cloud, for me, was one of the biggest things that happened, in the market, the biggest changes in mentality.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think in the past, there was always this fear that you had to choose between vendors and you had to choose between on-prem and in cloud. And actually now you can have a hybrid environment. You have multiple clouds and it all works pretty well together.
Yeah. And accompanying the customers through that journey, right? It's been kind of a very enlightening experience, to be honest, right? Because we all always have the goal of what is our vision at the end of the tunnel, right? Or the path. But the reality is that there are so many different realities. The realities of a customer that is sitting in central London versus the reality of a customer that is sitting in Lagos, or the reality of a customer that is sitting in Washington, D.C., right? Is completely different. So being able to accommodate not only geographical, but as well industry restrictions, policy decisions, cultural distinctions, right? Everybody should have the choice. And right now, I think Oracle has kind of the luxury to be able to offer that choice to their customers, right? And I think that's, for me, if not the biggest differentiators of all.
Very good. As I said, these sessions are for everyone who has joined us, so feel free to ask any questions. Even if we don't answer all of the questions here now or in the live stream, we will try to answer as many, and if not all, questions afterwards. We also have a few people from Oracle who've joined the discussion forum, so they are doing their best to answer lots of your questions. Let me just pull in one question here from G, and he's saying, how do you persuade customers to move from on-premise to the cloud? And he's saying that lots of Asian companies still resist or insist on on-premise system. And I think you started to, or you've probably answered this already, but maybe you want to go over this again, that today there isn't a choice, really. They don't have to make that choice anymore.
Yeah, there is definitely one part of that. I think there is another aspect that we learned very early in the discussions with our customers. We should, when we discuss with our customers, I personally try to avoid the likes for likes, you know. And the reason for that is that the cloud value, what it really means, why do we need to move to the cloud? You know, I mean, you got compute power, you got network, you got storage in the data center. You are building your own data center with the infrastructure, right? Here we are forgetting a very important aspect, which is the value of cloud is the elasticity, is the access to innovation, is the time to react, is the security built around those cloud data centers that you can imagine that the most secure data center that we deal with is actually the Oracle data center, right? So, so in that sense, when we are discussing with our customers, there is one area related to, the overall cost and what it takes, but there is another important aspect is what I'm going to get. Why do we want to move to the cloud? And the moving to the cloud is the access to that innovation that by one click, you get it. When we are, even on the innovation area, because we have this consistency on the technology, we actually have our Oracle database, the one that every customer has always known and used, is as well offered on the cloud as well as in the ad customer model, right? The big difference is that because cloud allows us to incorporate level of security, incorporate autonomous technology, machine learning, we are managing the infrastructure, so we can guarantee a specific performance and thresholds and time and patching. There are aspects that are being removed from the complexity and allow us to anticipate and guarantee specific areas around performance and optimizations, right? This is sometimes more difficult to quantify when it comes into the how much value am I getting from a managed service coming from the cloud. Well, when you put everything in the full picture, the cloud option definitely is a winner. It's just kind of opening that, removing yourself from the pure comparison. What am I getting? The terabytes or the cost, etc., and really identifying the quantifiable value that you get from the cloud.
Very good. I think that clears that up very well. What would be your top tips and top bits of advice for any CIO, so for any chief information officer today? We've talked about this next move now. What are your top tips?
Well, we've seen that technology has been very relevant. It's got this prime role in the last years. But after the events and how we are looking at technology today, how dependent we are with technology, the CIOs and in general the IT leaders are becoming really this critical role in the organization, right? Their vision is the one that is going to enable us to move to that next normal, and the one that will become after that, right? We know, and we've been discussing about that the companies with the highest technology maturity are the ones that are going to be able to move faster, overcome the problems faster, etc. Right? So here, I'm putting a lot of weight on the role of the CIO. What they say, the direction, the vision, is going to be tremendously important on the direction that we as a society are going to take. You know, their eagerness to actually build that future that we are having in mind is what is going to make the difference, right? So we've been already discussing for a long time the vision of that data center of the future, what it is like. What do we mean by that? You know, how do we combine cost efficiencies, being fast, secure, adjust to changes, you know, integrate innovation like machine learning and artificial intelligence that I was talking about, you know, how do we actually embed all that? That vision that those CIOs already have, they need to be expedite and is on the road to actually to identify what can be done and what can be done faster, right? I will add as well another component, which is the becoming greener, right? In this whole aspect of that data center of the future, another checkbox that we will start seeing more and more is the sustainability, the green aspect of those data centers. So top tips, I will encourage those CIOs to take definitely a stand-up role. We are very dependent on them. Their vision is going to be the one setting how, you know, our 2025 or 2030 will look like, right? So they need to be definitely eager and willing to lead the change.
No, this is exactly what I can only echo this. And for me, I think it's really important that those CIOs take a much more strategic role in the organization. And I sometimes, when I work with organizations, I find that they're so bogged down with sorting out internal problems. And I think it's really important to get their heads above all of this and actually look what is happening in the outside world, what is actually possible. And for me, there are two things they need to look at. One is, how can this technology help their customers? And so for me, this has to be the starting point. How can it make customers, how can it make their lives easier? How can it add more value? And then the other outside look has to be at technology and the latest innovation and having an understanding on what's on the horizon. I think this is really important.
Yeah. It's this combination. Again, we kind of recurrently go back to the same thing. Technology is here for they to take, you know, and definitely we will keep, as technology providers, we will be keep pushing the boundaries, right? But the reality is that in many cases, we are pushing the boundary, but most of our customers obviously are kind of one step, two steps behind, right? Because the technology needs to be there to be used. So while we keep pushing, we need to guarantee that they keep advancing, right? And that's why, for me, you know, going back to a little bit the anecdote from the beginning, I'm totally dependent on the role of the CIOs to go to the moon, right? So they need to move fast.
Very good. They better hurry up.
Yeah.
You need to speak to Elon Musk.
Absolutely. I need to get his phone number somewhere.
So I said it's really important to understand future trends. So what do you see on the horizon? Are there any technology developments that Oracle is developing that you see, other than flying to the moon, that you get excited about?
Absolutely. I mean, there's intermediate steps to that final goal, right? And for me, the biggest changes that are coming down the horizon are going to be related to two main areas. One is our own well-being. So anything related to health, to customer experience, to quality of life, all the technology that is impacting that aspect of us as individuals or as a community is gonna, we will be amazed by the amount of new solutions that are coming, right? And the second one is around the well-being of our planet, right? Anything related to sustainability and our contribution to stop or to slow down this climate change, right? We see it in industry, in different segments of the market, the innovation that is coming from smart cities, the innovation that is coming from retail related, for instance, around sustainability or customer experience, the innovation that is coming from financial services on how, I literally, as an anecdote, I opened a bank account the other day from my laptop, sitting actually where I am today, and with kind of pure facial recognition and a camera on my laptop, and that's it, right? This overall technology that is already today, it will be a by default and as a minimum, right? So the easiness for us to improve our quality of life and to protect what is hosting us, which is the planet, will be the biggest trends I see. To be able to do that, I think the technology obviously is gonna play a fantastic role. It's gonna be the enabler, right? With the amount of data, the automations and this autonomous and machine learning technology, we will be able to accelerate that learning to accommodate the solutions that we have right now. I don't know. Do you agree with me? Do you want to add or comment on that?
No, I completely agree with you. I think what I'm excited about is when I'm obviously talking about all of these technology trends in my writings and in my books, and they're all on their own. They're very exciting. So I see advances in machine learning that is exciting. I see advances in blockchain technology that is on the horizon that could potentially be transformative. But what I'm really excited about is the potential of all of these technologies to make our world a better place. So actually using this technology, and for me, this goes back to the argument or the tips for the CIOs. I think if your starting point is, what are actually our biggest problems in this world at the moment? What are the biggest challenges we are facing? As a consumer, we are facing big challenges and we want to have things easier and better, but we also need to make sure we look after our planet and we make sure people don't go hungry, and we need to remove some of the inequalities in this world. And I think all of these technologies can really help with this. So I think this is an amazing starting point. And the other thing I'm thinking is seeing that all of these technologies are now merging into each other, and supporting and probably, because they will all interact, this will accelerate this next normal even faster, because we have cloud computing, we've got edge computing, but we will now have 5G networks that will make it available to cars and anyone walking around in mobile. It will enable virtual reality headsets being used when we walk around in the streets, and augmented reality. So all of these things are interacting and fueling each other, which I find super exciting.
I think it's we as individuals are way more, we have higher expectations than what we have as enterprises connected to us, right? I think because probably society is becoming pretty techy savvy, right? We are expecting, communication through our mobile, being able to do everything out of a device is becoming a business as usual, right? Why we wouldn't expect to have the same reaction when you're interacting with your bank, or when you're interacting with your city hall, or when you're interacting with your energy provider, right? Absolutely. So this is something that I think is an interesting moment where I feel that we are maybe going before the enterprise, and the enterprises need to step up to be able to accommodate the expectations of the users, right? Which at the end of the day is who we are. Absolutely. And being able to, our priorities as individuals sometimes are not the same as the enterprises. On the other hand, I think what we saw coming out of COVID, I said in the beginning, the caring of enterprises around employees, around customers, it kind of, for me, was a beautiful moment to realize that we haven't forgotten that the most important aspect is who we are as individuals. And then we will, if we are well and healthy, we will all be taking care of each other, right? But for that, we need technology. I mean, I'm a big big fan of that.
No, same here. One of the questions that there were a number of questions, so I don't want to pull them up all now. But what people are saying is how is this technology relevant to small and medium-sized companies? And I think a number of people said, okay, digital transformation, all well and good, but I think it's still associated with large companies with large budgets. So how do you approach this in a small and medium-sized setting? Have you got any advice for that?
Absolutely. I think it's very relevant. It's
Yeah.
very relevant because small and medium companies are probably the ones closer to the consumers and to the individuals, right? The ones that I just was saying that they got high expectations, right? So in this very competitive world where these small companies in many cases will be competing with the larger one, they need to step up on that. There is another important aspect, which is that technology like cloud is actually removing in many cases the low-end expertise, because it's being automated, it's being optimized, right? So in many cases, when we are going back to the autonomous database, our autonomous database, what it's doing is actually removing the low-end skills that we had in many of the roles of the database administrators and automating that, because we believe that those guys will be doing a much bigger contributor, and their knowledge and experience will be contributing to getting the right insight of the data. And I totally encourage the small and medium companies to evaluate the possibility of transferring part of their infrastructure, for instance, to the cloud. They will be removing a lot of the complexity. Somebody else will be doing the job for them. It's a very cost-efficient way, which is extremely sensitive, especially sensitive for the small companies, right? Yeah. So I think it's about the delegation. Take what is your core expertise, keep it with yourself. But what is something that is being provided and is already being done, why do we want to invest the time to do that? In a very simplistic way, a taxi driver will not build the car to do what is their core functionality, the core business, which is driving people around, right? So delegate the building of what you need to perform your business to the ones that are doing it every day, and they can operate in a more efficient way, more secure way, and optimized way.
Yeah, this is exactly, I can only completely agree with what you've just said. I think it has never been more important for small and medium-sized companies, and I don't think it has ever been easier. Sometimes when I talk to small and medium-sized companies about using artificial intelligence, for example, they would say, okay, this I haven't got the expertise, I can't hire the people, it has nothing to do with me. Once they outsource something to the cloud, they suddenly are using artificial intelligence because it is underpinning the autonomous database. And if they're then signing up for cloud services, be this finance or HR, suddenly they're using artificial intelligence because this technology is inbuilt in these systems, and you can just simply sign up for them and start using them. So this is for me the big promise, and I think
what is missing is actually the expertise of the business that obviously the individual in the company is bringing, right? So if you are able to kind of get all the tools and everything ready for you to make the analysis and make the right decisions based on that, this is where you bring the core value. I think it's something that, as I said, it's never been easier, right? But again, it has to be understood and well known, right, before really kind of embracing on that. And I guess this conversation is actually part of that, right? Creating that awareness for our audience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Diana. This was a fantastic conversation. I could keep going forever. Anyone listening to this who thinks this is a really interesting topic, make sure you come to the Systems Advantage Forum on Wednesday, the 9th, next week. So this is something that you can all join and explore all of these topics in a lot more detail. as always, anyone who wants to watch any of these live streams again or watch any of the previous discussions, head to my LinkedIn channel, to my YouTube channel, where they are all available, or sign up for my podcast where you can listen to these. Thank you very much, Diana, and I hope your dream of flying to the moon will become
I
a
hope so
reality.
too. I hope so too. Thank you very much, Bernard. It was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure, a real pleasure to have this session today with you.
Same here. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.